Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Coffee Review. It is a beautiful July 9th. I am happy to report I still have all my fingers and toes. Hope you do too from a good 4th of July weekend. What'd you do, Michael?
Just had a barbecue local here at the house. Definitely didn't launch any fireworks because I was already heat exhausted from it being extremely hot and grilling outside. So I definitely have all of my fingers and toes as well. We actually ended up watching it like the fireworks via live stream, which was actually kind of a little bit better than being out in the heat. It was
Yeah.
so hot. I mean, dude, it doesn't get in all of you that haven't lived in Arizona. It's we're at the point in the heat where it doesn't cool down past 90 degrees in the morning or into the night, right? So it is hot. But yeah, successful 4th of July. What about yourself?
I had a great time. I went on a camping trip, lit some fireworks, made some beers disappear, cooked some meat over fire, all the good stuff that I like to do. So it was a real good weekend, and I'm feeling recharged and back. So today we are going to cover a few things. I have a couple little housekeeping announcements that one of them was discovered this morning. Two of them were discovered this morning. And then we'll go from there. First one is that if you launch Review 21 today, you're probably going to find a sign-in screen. Um, Bluebeam pushed a forced logout for everybody. It's going to give you the warning that, hey, Studio is going to be down this Saturday, July 12th, from 10 a.m. Pacific to 12 p.m. Pacific. So you will not be able to access Studio projects or sessions. Now, there is a link that tells you how to prepare to work offline if need be. Remember the last time they did scheduled maintenance, it took a little longer than they said it would. So hopefully this goes pretty smooth and we'll go. So if you are starting to get errors or anything today from people like, hey, why do I have to log into Review today? That's what it is. It's just Review pushing out that message so everybody's aware. I think it's a pretty smart move given that the last scheduled maintenance didn't maybe
Twice.
get in front of everybody
Yeah.
in time. So this will force everybody to take a look. So while it was a little bit of a shock because I've never seen that combined as it was today, it worked pretty well. I think it was effective. So fair warning on that. Second thing, next week, I may or may not be able to be on MCR. It depends because I will be in San Diego. Caitlin Bosma and myself from ATG are going to be presenting at the Autodesk booth at the Esri conference. So if you're at the Esri user conference in San Diego, pop by the Autodesk booth, come say hi. I'll be taking some classes as well and helping Caitlin give a theater talk at one point. It's going to be a really good time. Hopefully, get to interact with some of you, and we'll just enjoy San Diego because it's San Diego. Where
It'll be
the last
nice
time,
weather, right?
yeah,
Compared to, well, is it cooler than where you're at?
it's about it's about the
The
same
same.
here. Yeah, it's high 70s and it cools down to 65 at night. Like that's my jam right there. This
Where's it at?
85 stuff, the convention center.
The one where AU is going to be at?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Okay.
expecting
Nice.
18,000 people. That's a
That's
massive
more
conference.
than AU because AU
Yeah,
is going to be 14,000 people. That's
yeah,
wild.
yeah. It's gonna be really big. Um, Autodesk is there, which is going to be exciting because Autodesk, Andrew Adagnost, the CEO of Autodesk, and Jack Dangerman, the CEO of Esri, are going to have one-on-one talks, both behind closed doors and whatever. So that link between Esri and Autodesk is getting stronger. It's pretty exciting to see the improvements coming through both platforms. And between that, I know we've talked about this before as well with other software companies sort of putting their guard down a little bit, like, all right, let's work together. So with that announcement with Nemetschek and Autodesk as well, maybe some Bluebeam Cloud functionality into ACC, tinfoil hat, crystal ball stuff. We're excited to see where things are going. But
What is so for those people that may not know, like what is Esri?
Esri is the world leader in GIS software, right? So GIS is geographic information systems. It's all around us. Most cities, counties, companies use it.
Hmm.
If anything that can be mapped that has information, Esri makes a platform for that. So if you're a field worker going out to do an inspection on a catch basin and you want to take a picture and report the condition and do whatever else, you can do that and it will report back to the office for you on a map so they can say, oh, look, Jane Doe is over here at catch basin 42 here on Main Street. There's a problem. We need to send a truck out, right? Or Amazon would use it to route trucks more efficiently through a neighborhood. Or, you can use it for business analysts. Where's the closest coffee shop that's open at 6 a.m. that's 5 blocks from a bus stop within this neighborhood? It can do anything that you can think of. It's a very powerful software, and many of the users that are just incredibly talented are making beautiful maps and beautiful story maps and apps and so many different things that make our world a little bit easier to understand. So
it's about mapping.
Mapping, essentially, yeah. But more than that. So we're excited. It's something that I love to see. It's something that we're getting in more to over here at ATG, and it'll be exciting to learn and share and spend some time at the Autodesk booth. So
can you do that for like a site build? Like, because you were talking about issues.
Oh, yeah.
On the field. So it's almost like a field application for mapping too, kind of, that they have built into it.
Yeah, there's a ArcGIS for indoors now. I mean, there's ArcGIS.
Yeah, I talked to a firm that's using it. Like, it's called like floor map or something like that.
It's just ArcGIS indoors. It's what if you went to the Autodesk AU last year, the app that they had was powered by Esri for indoor mapping. And there's some other things that it's going to do with asset management and all this other stuff that make it pretty damn cool. So I'm excited. Hopefully come back with some tidbits. But today we're talking about Bluebeam. And Bluebeam is not one of the sponsors there. So I don't know if I'll interact with any of those folks. But yeah.
So with that, then we have what happened?
I just got news that one of a large engineering firm got hacked and held for ransom. So cybersecurity is real, folks. It's one of those things that we've seen happen a couple different times. Take it seriously. I know if we've got any IT folks here on the call.
Don't trust anyone.
Yeah, don't trust anyone.
Trust me, we are so locked down, and for good reason, as you just saw. So
yeah, if you've got IT initiatives who are like, yeah, we're going to add that in 2026, like, no, you better get on it. It's getting wild out there.
Private data.
Yep. If you need help with that, we can help. We can have a conversation, at least help guide you, make sure you're protected. But in the meantime, let's talk about some Bluebeam. So the other thing I wanted to mention, here, I'm going to share my bug real quick.
Oh, okay.
So today we're going to cover 15 hidden tips and tricks. And in preparation of this, and slight spoiler alert, I found a bug, and I want to share it because I restarted Revu twice, and I got the same result. So I want to see if any of you have the same bug. So what I did was I opened up any PDF, doesn't matter. I drew a cloud or any markup, doesn't matter. I've tried call out and the cloud. And then I right click to set status. Actually, I'm going to move this over here because that other arrow is in the way. Now, if you see down here at set status, I don't want to go down and highlight just yet, but you see that caret that normally has that flyout that goes and tells you what statuses you have available, whether it be what status states you have. If I click on that, nothing happens. Now, if I go back and set status, there's nothing there. I can't select it. I have no way to set a status for anything anymore.
What about the hotkey? What's a hotkey?
Well, I just don't have a way to do it.
Well,
because they're not turned on. Is it that simple? Why did they get turned off? I never turned them off. That is wild. Okay. Slight user error, but still, it would normally do that. But this is okay. We'll just jump right into it since I'm here.
Oh, there it is. Shit.
Hidden tricks 101 or hidden trick number 1. Hotkeys. are now there for statuses, and by default, they are there shift 1 through 9. So shift key 1, shift key 2, shift key 3, shift key 4, etc. Can be assigned to different statuses.
What happens if you, so go back to your statuses and turn off the first bucket of statuses? Does it just go from order of like the hierarchy there? Like, so now will it be 1 through whatever, 4 or 3? Yeah, 1 through 3.
Whoa.
Okay.
Not confirmed, none. Was that in my list? Where? Okay.
We'll click it. Yeah, it's not confirmed, none.
Not confirmed, okay. I'm losing my mind this morning. All right, so accepted. Let's go back to that one. So there should be 5 there, and if I add more, or is adding for more models, how do I add more states?
You can't add from out of the box ones. So you need to add a new state and just add a couple and see what it does.
I'm not going to go through. I was going to add up to 9 so we can go all the way through that to see what happens when you have more than 9, but Liz would know.
I just wish they'd just let you export these and share them.
Yeah. Well, you know what to do there. We can simply make a suggestion. So yeah, there they are, hidden in plain sight. So this was of the new update that came out last week, I think.
Yes.
And it's pretty slick. I'm curious to see how you status aficionados love it.
Yeah, there was that. The search, which I still don't have. Auto line somehow got faster. But again, and I think we had this comparison before with auto align, that it's up to like the user's preference of auto align in terms of, hey, it really is meant to, when you're thinking about aligning documents, to make sure that what are the differences completely, right? Because in my mind, and maybe your mind, I'm not going to speak for you, I would want it to move to the viewports that were changed so that they can overlay properly. But that's not, and someone made a comment before and I had to rethink. I'm like, well, that's true. You would want to know from a title block perspective, like extent of the PDF, what changed, right? So even if the detail moved, the detail originally should stay in the original part, shouldn't go over to the opposite part, right? Like, because you're looking for the full differences, not having it auto align per like detail area. My thought is more of just like moving things around for me, but I don't think we'd ever get to that point because it'd have to cut, move, right? That type of thing. So just my 2 cents on that, because the auto line got faster. Let's see what else ended up happening. So I don't have the updates. I always take forever to update. Everyone should know that at this point. The VM got improved since they didn't really support it. So non-persistent machines. So this is if like you have a shared machine that everyone's using and logging in, and then like there's another issue if you're because some people have a VM where they completely wipe and create a new desktop instance every time you start your day, which is pretty wild to me. But yeah, that's always been an issue with the VM solution as well. And then independent units and then hiding markups. This one was great. I think that we all saw the ability to go through and hide individual markups from your perspective there. But first and foremost, what are some of the hidden tips and tricks? So I think, I was talking with Jason a little bit earlier because we always like to come in at this kind of fresh and think of things. I think the first one actually, because I was going to talk about some of the like hidden ones from a back end perspective, but this one I think would be great. As Jason was going through, I was looking, I was thinking that's actually a pretty good hidden one in terms of creating your custom tool sets. So if you're a little bit newer, maybe you're experienced and you haven't done this before, one great way to easily get access to your tool sets is, one, you can trace, but that takes forever, right? The other hidden tool would be the ability to do what's called a snapshot. So that tool is G for the hotkey. You can also go to edit, and then you can go to snapshot here if you've somehow changed your keyboard shortcuts. But you can quickly get access from, this is just a general note sheet with my key examples of what they are. Now you have this saved as a snapshot, and then you can just do Control V to paste it. The one thing that I do wish it would be to have the origin change for some of these, just because the origin point, you can't determine where that origin point is. That's, one big ask. I would like to be able to right click and just say, hey, change my origin point to somewhere in this snippet, or even just from a perspective of grouping markups together. But that's another internal request thing of if you ever have requests to go to help, make a suggestion there. But yeah, so Snapshot is a great way to quickly add markups into your custom tool sets. So tool sets, the ability to save your markups. And I'll just throw this one down over here, punch key flooring. And then you can also change colors if you ever needed to. So you can modify everything. Maybe I wanted this to be determined as a markup, not representation of the actual PDF itself. So one great way to quickly create some tool sets if you ever needed to would be snapshots versus tracing, because we all know tracing will take more time. And one thing that's really valuable in all of our lives right now is time. So that's the first one.
It is intern season, though. So you just set the interns loose to go draw stuff for you not automatically, but manually. Could be interesting.
That could be. I would agree. The other one would be adding some things to your custom toolbars. So up at the top here, you have your toolbar association. These can't be removed out of the user interface, just so you're all aware. They're more designed to be part of the review platform. Whereas profiles, right, you can move them out, you can dock them onto second screens and all of that good stuff from, did I say profiles? I meant to say, okay. But I meant to say your icons from your, I forget the name of these. What are these called again?
The panels?
Panels, thank you. So your panels can be dragged out, but your toolbar can't. So you can always right click though on your toolbar and you can customize what you have from an interface perspective here. This is a great hidden one. So if you wanted to, you can go through and customize, and from here you can add different things to existing toolbars, create your own toolbar menu. If you wanted to, things that you use more frequently. I do like the added, if I don't want to ever have to access some of my tool chests from the tool chest panel, you can actually store a tool chest up here at the top, so you can go through and quickly place some of the things that you have as well. So it's just quick access to custom tool sets that you've had versus having to go over, activate the tool chest, and then go through and look. But the new search feature is pretty cool. Jason brought that up last week, since he does have it installed, and the ability to search is probably going to be a lot easier, because if you had to go through all of these, it wouldn't be fun at all, right? So being aware of that. And this is that tool set. Maybe we'll have to reinvestigate this, because this is the one that's added online, and I wonder if I move it around, does it sync to the online portion? So anyways, we'll not squirrel that for now. So that's one great one. The other hidden tool that I would recommend, so we're going with 15. So we have 2 so far. We talked about...
We got 3, so we included the hotkey status. I think that counts as a hidden one.
Okay, so 3 so far.
Maybe we'll make a bonus one later.
Yeah, we'll make a bonus one later. So we have 3 so far. We talked about the hotkey for your statuses, which is brand new. We talked about the ability to go through in snapshots and customizing your toolbar. The other one would be the ability to go through and use different designations when you're using, I would think, probably the ellipse and arcs. So these are all just buried in terms of, I don't know if there is documentation, more of just trial and error and like people telling you this, but basically going through and using Alt as a different selection. So if I go through and use Alt when I select it, and you can't do this from the toolbar menu. So if I'm holding Alt and this annoying thing from Teams at the top, I can go through and click my arc, and you can do it by a point designation. So I'll actually go to somewhere on my sheet versus going through and doing it over here. But if I wanted to, I can do a 3-point selection of how my arc is going to be placed by using and holding down the Alt key. So I can come into here and I could place one here, Then you have that option to go through from that specific perspective of placing your arc from that area. So that's just one additional hidden tool there. Same thing from the ellipse. So if you go through and hold the Alt key for ellipse, it goes from the center radius origin of it. So again, that ability to go through versus selecting it and then you don't have a true circle, it is a true ellipse, dragging from top left to right. And I believe there's one more. Is it the control or is it the shift? I think there's one more. Is it the Alt?
Every time I will get it wrong, so I always cycle through Shift, Alt, and Control to figure out which one does the thing. I just don't use them that often to make that muscle memory.
Yeah, Shift, Control, Alt didn't do anything, but the Shift and Control didn't do anything, but the Alt key did. So Alt key, remember radius, and then the 3 points designation selection from the arc command itself. So that's another great hidden one in terms of like just buried in the solution itself and being able to go through and place these markups like respectively from that perspective. Another one that I would say that I kind of entered into, and everyone always asks me when they see my review open because I have my icon here, and they're like, "You have a custom icon of your face," and yes, I do. So how can you go through and create something similar? This is not specific to anything but customizing for quick stamp placement. So if I ever wanted to, and you can create your own, there's a huge list of things that you can go through and utilize for this, and I'll go through and show you as well, but is the ability to place a stamp on every page in a specific area or location, right? So you do have that option to go through, and I just have to remember where this is at under script. So from here, you do have that option. And when you're going through and creating it, you can create your own, but there's already some pre-existing ones out there. So like flatten email, there's like export TIFF with header, convert to grayscale if you just want to quickly convert your PDF to a grayscale, but you can add your own. So essentially what you're doing is this is where I imported my icon. So whatever image you want. Back in the day, Jason and I had some cartoons created of us. So that's the cartoon of MCR Michael. But yeah, you can go through and create your own icon that you wanted. But essentially what you're able to go through and do is utilize a script for this. So if I just type in S here, it's going to go through and show you some of these additional options. So as you're going through, you can just click on this and balance pages. What does this even mean, right? So insert blank page into an active document to balance the total number of pages to an odd, even, specific count or specific page division. So from here, you can go through and see some of the examples. And that's how I built my stamp placement. There's the stamp one. And basically, it tells you right here what the string type's going to be and what you need to place in there specifically to go through and balance your pages, right? So if I go down to the stamp one, this one tells me how I can go through and quickly place a stamp somewhere. So it says, for the example, what I did was pick the approved stamp. So you're just picking the stamp file name that's in your review instance, and then where's it going? So I put upper right versus lower right, and then what designation on the page. So it's going to go from the top right corner, in what distance in location on the PDF do you want that to be, and just here's some example numbers of that one. Q. And then it says, great, how you're going to place it, and then just said normal for it. So again, being able to go through and quickly create your own, like repair pages, if you wanted to insert pages, page delete, there's a lot here, like export. Some people have asked, like, can I quickly go through and create a custom button that adds specific verbiage for a header of PDF so I don't have to go through and create that, right? Easy access to these customizable scripts in your review instance. And I don't know if this requires complete or not. I know the JavaScript instances does, but I don't know if this script editor does. So I can't really answer that because they don't define it. They just say JavaScript. So maybe this is it. I don't know. So
I would imagine most things involving scripts are going to be moved to complete, but who knows? Who knows? let's take a quick break from the question or the tips to answer a couple questions. So
Okay.
I'm going to share my screen again real quick. There was a question about the search function, right? So in this latest update, so the latest update is 21.2 that came out last week. They added this really cool thing where if your tool chest is messy, right? So let's say I don't know where my plant is, right? I can come up here to the top and just type plant. I can come up here and just search for circle or area or civil or landscape or, whatever else. So this is a new update. And maybe that's a hidden trick on its own. Make sure you stay updated, Michael, because,
Michael,
well, again,
take it on me.
not everybody has the capability to do check for updates, and some organizations remove this functionality because it can be a pain. The updates are over a gigabyte to download and install, and it does take some time, and things can go wrong because you have to close Outlook and Word and anything that's Windows based because of the plugins. So it is a big deal, right? But if you are able to update, especially this 21.2, there are some really handy things in here that are worth updating for, and this search is one of them, right? If you're not doing so great with cleaning up your tool chest and it's becoming more of a junk drawer, this is going to enable that functionality a little bit more, unfortunately, but it's pretty slick. The other question I saw was the convert to arc feature. Has it gotten any better? That's not something I use a whole lot, honestly.
Yeah, just use a polyline and then you can convert your points to an arc.
Right? So when you're creating a squiggle like this, you have the ability to right click and convert to arc. So you can go convert to arc, convert to arc. Is it any better? I don't know. It's not something I use that often, so it's hard for me to judge, but it's actually, I don't know what you would use that for all the time. But you do have pretty good editing capability to adjust your splines accordingly. Maybe you're doing a little artsy fartsy stuff and making some flames or some flowers or who knows, whatever you'd use this for. But there you go.
Yeah, so curves. So Liz is saying rebar for structural.
Oh, okay.
Doug is saying curves for millwork. Yeah, did it just get, Doug, do you feel like it got better with the newest update? Because, I don't have it, but if it's outside of that, right, the ability to go through and quickly convert things into an arc, I guess I'll just use a polyline. But you can always right click and convert, and you can add a point if you needed to. Wow, that worked really well. I guess just because it's a 3-point, but I've used this tool a couple of times, and being able to go through and use these point designators here and here to change the way that it's going. So you have your right one here, and then you have this one here to change it, but then you have the higher one to help you move that distance as well. So these two are the main ones. This is where it's originally at, and you can go through and rotate kind of where these are at. So I guess if you would, used it more frequently, you'd have that kind of, once things get updated for specific workflows, it's probably like very noticeable for you. So for us not using it as most frequently, we may not see it. So I'll put you back over here.
And there was a comment. So in the last update, someone lost all their custom columns and tool sets. So yeah, be careful with that. There is that backup tool, and maybe that if we really wanted to be lazy, that would be another hidden trick. There is that ability inside of preferences to go in and actually, well, there's another thing. Search there for backup.
Yeah, I have this one. But yeah, you have that ability to back up. You can also export out your profiles, and that's if you saved your custom columns to your profiles, right? So whenever you're creating a custom column, there is the ability to save these to your profile here. So as long as you save them to your profile, if you go to your profiles and your tool sets are in that specific profile, right? Because we've talked about tool sets before with profiles. You have that ability to go to manage profiles, and there's this include dependencies. When this is checked, you're good to go. So basically just making sure when you're going through and doing that, you have that option too. That way, if you're afraid to update, mine is just more of, I don't know, I just don't do it, to be honest. Because the time, maybe? I don't know. Yeah. I just like when Jason just tells me every time that he has the update and he needs to remind me to update. So I don't think I've
it's
updated
one of those things
Revit.
you got to make time for. You know, it does take 15 minutes or so by the time you let it cycle, and then it says, "Oh yeah, shut this down." Well, by that time you're in the middle of an email, so it is kind of a pain.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Because it doesn't hinder me. So basically, like the one thing I do definitely update is the desktop connector, because that is something that's very important from that perspective. And I'm not saying and knocking on anything else that isn't important, but just in terms of like, I have to have that updated in order to utilize ACC respectively, in terms of not having the latest and greatest one and creating issues with corrupt files. But anyways, okay. So let's go back into some of our other tips. And if you have some tips, folks, feel free to add them in here so we can go through and add some tip values. Another one will be, I'm gonna do this in segments, because I'm also gonna utilize, I think Revit 23 is the newest one that has the better data sets. I'm gonna also show a quick hot tip for spaces if you have the plugin, because that did change the ability to make sure that they have the respective colors when you're coming over into exporting out spaces. That's a great new update as well. But second one is going to be sketch to scale. So sometimes, I remember when I first started out, I never really knew what these were because I never really utilized sketch to scale, but there is that ability. So the orange color icons is the ability to sketch to scale. So if you are trusting of the scale that has been set, because there may not be a scale bar, but you can always go through and scale from the scale bar itself, just because maybe the page size is a little bit different. I know Revit does have a printing issue where it's like 0.0001 off for, I think it's ARC D plotted PDFs. It's a known issue, but knowing that it's not to scale, but you can still go through and sketch to scale. So you have rectangle, you have the ability to create a polygon, an ellipse, and then you also have the ability to polyline sketch to scale. But you can left click your placement, and then you get your selection of your width. So you can type it in from here. So I typically just go through and say, hey, this is going to be 10 feet by tab is the next one. So because you're going over, because it's showing the width here, right? Tab to the height will be 20 feet here. So again, that ability to sketch directly to scale in Revu is definitely one of the next hidden items I would use as well. From like, we're going from basics to maybe more advanced, because we go script basic here, from like sketch to scale to now another more advanced. And Jason, you'll just check the chat if anyone starts to add stuff too. Just let me know.
Liz got me. Liz
oh, okay.
dropped a tip in there that I should have seen coming, because I use that same functionality in Autodesk Fusion, but I never thought about using it in Bluebeam Revu. And that's where you're using the measuring tool, the measure tool at the top, and you just place a dimension, whatever it is, and then you can double click on the number and then say it's 30, make it 80, and it will automatically move the measurement. So go double click on that text and then change that to 50 or whatever, something bigger, so it moves. That didn't work.
It didn't let me. 50, and then what? Do you just, I hit enter. Do I not?
You got to use the footmark.
Yeah, I got to use the footmark.
There you go. So now it just updates. What would you use that for, though? It's not driving anything parametrically, which is normally how I would have made see that. But that's pretty clever.
Yeah, maybe verify the distance of like, hey, this is supposed to be 50. It's almost like using this, but it's the actual at scale measurement, right? Like, oh my gosh, Teams. this layout thing of this bar thing is just gonna be
You can't
the
see. Yeah.
end of me. So yeah, here's the dimension. It'd be maybe that, right? Because instead of saying that it's 50 here, you're saying that this is where it needs to be,
Mhm.
right? At scale. I could see that.
Oh, okay. So Liz is using those dimensions to lay out basically snap points and then using snap to content to draw more complicated shapes.
Oh,
I suppose
okay,
that
so like,
works really well because your sketch to scale is limited to what those tools are, and then that would allow you to have those reference points, especially if you're trying to draw on top of an existing sheet, make sure it fits, right?
can I not snap to markup? Yeah, it does work. Okay, I was like, yeah, because then you would snap to this,
Yep.
knowing your distance. Yeah,
Yep.
but you need to have the snap. So preferences, snap, snap to markups. If you're wondering why I wasn't able to at the beginning, so
I normally get to that from the view menu. View, and there's also hotkeys for that.
oh, view, yeah, I go the
Interesting.
old way.
Yeah, and there is a button for it.
Yep. You can also, in terms of where is that? Tools and then toolbars. You have your status bar. F8
Yep.
also has it down here
Maybe that's a hidden
automatically.
trick. That was one that I was going to mention. That status bar is super handy.
Yeah.
And not many people use it. It's not defaulted, um, but it's going to make you certainly more efficient in the software if you don't mind giving up a little bit of your screen real estate.
Yeah. And the hotkey for that's F8 because some people hit it as well. And then F4. This has come up in a support case of I can't see my navigation bar. Like I don't have the arrows to go to the next page. And that's just a simple hotkey as well. So under tools, toolbars, you have that ability too.
Yep.
That's and this is I think in the same thing, reuse, because a lot of people don't have that selected. So if you're ever going through and placing markups on a PDF and you want to place the markup but reuse it right after, there is a preference set for that too. That one's under tools, reuse tools. So as you're done placing a markup, right, you still are in the command versus exiting you out of the command when you're done. So maybe people don't want to have to continuously hit the same markup because they're going through and just redlining something like, hey, here, here, here. They don't have to re-click cloud, right? If I go back and do it without the reuse markups, then you have to keep clicking that markup. It would be a hotkey or something like that, right? So
I swear we're not just ripping off your blog there, Liz, but thanks for posting those links in there.
oh, yeah, these are all on the fly.
Yep.
Typical
We
Jason
didn't
and
do that much
Michael.
preparation. Yeah.
Okay. So going through and talking next would be the ability to, this one came out, I think it was in 20. And hopefully this is in your blog, Liz, but basically the ability to go through and place leaders anywhere. So Alt Z is another great tip. And I don't know, we'll just build this into part of this tip, but Alt Z I use all the time. And you can have it auto size your text box already too by doing this, by having it as a preference setting. So you can auto size text box or callouts. I just typically hit Alt Z and everyone always asks whenever I'm doing a demo, how'd you do that? And I usually do that intentionally to make people say, whoa, right? But anyways, you can always right click and add a leader. And in the back in the old days, back in my day, um, it was just from here, so it'd be from the existing leader that you could only add it. Do you remember those days, Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Harley? And now you can add it however many times you want from anywhere you want as well. And then there is another hidden hotkey too, before anyone jumps in here. It's the ability to add by going through and holding shift and selecting your node from that existing node point too. And then you can rotate it to wherever you want. So that is one ability as well, is hey, I don't want to have to right click and go in and do that, you can just select it, and over the node of the original point here, you can then add another one as well. And you don't have to continuously hold shift. Once you've selected it, it's entered the command and then you can move on. So
Arrowhead Madness.
yes,
It's pretty
that's
clever.
another great one. The other one is going to be adding images. So burying images inside of your markups is definitely, I would say, a great tool built into Revu. So let me go over to here. I think I have some in this one built into here. What I'm going to talk about is the exporting capture part. So instead of going through, like, let's say we're going to go through and do like a punch list or something, and we have some markups with some images or just an image in general to give like a replication of something so that somebody can have that access to that. Let me just go into demo docs, images, and here we are. Okay. So adding images this way, I feel like is a little bit better than taking up space on the PDF, but they don't get printed as full res. So if I do a PDF summary and then I go through and just hit OK, basically you have your markups here that are going to be pre-populated in a markups list, but they're not full res. So you do have the option to include export capture data. So if I click it, it's going to create a last page with export capture data that's embedded in the PDF. So then you have the full resolution picture as well. So that's one, and that is done under your export PDF summary. You have under here, you have the ability to go through under options, and right here is the check button. So it's a little bit buried. Again, output options. In the options folder, you have the include capture media addendum. Yeah, it is an addendum.
Mm-hmm.
And when I always think of addendum, have you ever listened to Hardcore History?
No.
Yeah, that's really good.
Dan
Carlson voicing that when he says addendum is just, there's an addendum. But anyways, series. So you have that ability to attach media as a link file. So the other way would be to go to here. You can go to your capture. You can go to capture summary as well. You have that ability to go through and do that too.
Yeah, and Doug makes a good point. You know, if you have a lot of photos, just place a link to cloud storage.
Yeah. So how do I place a link? Let's go through and talk about that. We'll go over here. Cloud storage, you can right click. You can have the ability to also go through and place an action. And the action can go to a hyperlink location. We'll just do Bluebeam. So I'll hit OK. And you click this, it should, oh, it's not Google, everybody. So www.
Yep. HTTPS.
I don't think you need that. Yeah, you just need www. There we go. So here's that. Now, what happens to things of this nature? So if I go through and flatten this one, it becomes the part of the markup itself. So maybe that's a hidden tip, flattening to make it selectable. Because you can also do like a button, so that's part of forms. That makes it easy to select and click and create an action to go somewhere, or a web link too, but that's another one. So
yep, that's a handy trick. Doug said he learned that from Troy. And just a thing about what we're doing here. This is all about the community, right? Bluebeam as a community. We're learning from Troy, learning from Bluebeam blogs, learning from Liz, learning from you, the users, learning from experiments, learning from whatever else. The Construction Brothers podcast, the XCon, which reminds me, side note, squirrel announcement. If you didn't notice, there's a Bluebeam Live event coming up. So instead of XCon having a couple days in one particular city, there's going to be Bluebeam Live in Sydney, Australia, in Los Angeles, in Miami, in New York, and
Dallas, right?
Dallas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's live.bluebeam.com. And there's going to be different speakers, the CEO, Construction Brothers guys, Fred Mills for the London one, bunch of different speakers, and it's a free event. Um, totally free, open to the public, and they're going to be at like stadiums. It's going to be pretty huge. So pretty darn cool. So yeah, learn. And Bluebeam Community is coming soon. They've teased it on their LinkedIn. There's going to be some forums and blog type of things, like a central location. So stuff.
Yeah. So it'll be at stadiums, which will be a little bit different. I don't know. Is it meant to be more of like a speaking engagement and like a conversation? I don't know. If they're having podcast people on there, I would assume it's going to be more like open conversation, which would be nice. Is it going to be like a lecture? It's a little bit different because I don't think we've ever entered the era of going to like a stadium, right? It's always been conventions for us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Unfortunately, none of them are close to me, but I got
maybe we
airline
make it
miles.
out to one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll see if we can make it out to one, and let you all know if we're gonna be there, and we can all say hi again, like we did at XCon. So with that, I have Revit open as well, and I guess it's 2024, so I'll just open up 2024. So we'll wait again. Going back, let's talk about the highlight command too. So we've talked about some hidden and embedded ones. So if you do have a raster PDF versus a vector-based PDF, typically it's going to select your text. But talking about those hidden keys again as well, if you go through and hold your control key, it takes away the value of it being a raster-based highlight and now is a highlight around an area. So again, versus going through and utilizing text, you have that option to go through in here and paste that as well. Some of the next ones would be the ability to go through and quickly export out what you want. This actually came up in one of my YouTube videos where someone actually requested how they can print out specific stuff because they started going through and just hiding all. Or they group, no, that's what it was. They grouped them together because they wanted just those ones to print out in their markup summary. So being aware, you can filter your list here, right? So that ability to say, I just want my approved ones, we'll do dimensions to print out. So if you just want a specific thing to print out in your markups lists, it will default to what is being filtered and sorted here, right? So if I wanted to go through and just create my new summary, it's the single markup.
Big fat
right?
giant asterisk though. You have to be on complete for that one.
So does complete do this filter or this?
Filter and sort.
So it's both.
Yep.
So it's this one and this one. So with here, because this, see how it defaulted, it said dimension. It defaulted to what this was. That would make sense, right? Because you can't, it automatically goes to that. But you can add an additional one if you wanted actually like also arc. So that ability is now only in complete, right? Is what you said?
Yep.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So let's go into Revit here. We're going to go into this one. They sent out an email for conferences. I'm assuming Jason will bring that email up.
Put in the link in the chat.
As I open up this model here, I hope this wasn't an ACC. Is this the model Matt and I were working on for our AU presentation?
Oh.
I hope not. No, because I think we went to 2023. Yeah, this isn't an ACC. Okay. We'll go to floor plans here. Let's see, where do we have some? I'm looking for some of our, maybe it's in life safety. Because they already have rooms, but they don't have a colorized floor plan for it. All right, we'll just go to the OG ones here. So we'll go through and open some files here. What is this one? We want the advanced, is it? Or yeah, we want this one.
So Revity.
So Revity. But yeah, you have the ability to go through and print out any predetermined. I'm assuming this one doesn't have any in there. Okay. So these rooms already have colors in them, created as rooms, right? They colorize them. And if we wanted to, we can go and print out our rooms as spaces. So under add-ins, you have settings here. And this from an architectural perspective. And it's not spaces in Revit from an MEP perspective. It's rooms in Revit from an architectural perspective that can be printed out as spaces. So being aware of going through and creating that. And this one is going to be, we are going to do the native. Well, hold on. Let's see. Is this on a sheet? So now we will go through and create this PDF from the A1. So you can print this out as spaces. Now, spaces are great, not just for, and maybe you just include one of these from your set, right? So as you're going through and just so that someone has access to them instead of having to go through and trace and create, because we all know that takes time. And we're just talking about how time is valuable here, right? So if I wanted to go to my sheets. This is on the floor plan sheet. We'll go through and say, okay, and we are going to go through and create the file. Again, you can do area measurements too, but we'll go through and create this. Essentially, again, the ability to quickly colorize, because that wasn't part of it. And yep, saving it here so Jason can tell me how messy my desktop is when we see each other in person here soon. So, yep, spaces now come with their predetermined colors. So if I go to properties here, whereas before everything just got the native default, we all remember that, right? Now has that option too. So be aware of that great thing. And then again, we were talking about maybe from a punch key perspective, as you're going through and placing your punches. I know Doug uses this from like an itemization standpoint from an area of items, but now when I go through and print this out, and I like to create individual cover sheets for each space. So that's another hidden tip here too, because it shows you the space, which is pretty cool. And then from here, it shows you where the markup is in the space. So here's the space again, a new one, and then the markup in the space, same thing here. Didn't fit on the page, so it gave me a second page. But again, that ability to auto cut, it basically creates a snapshot because you can copy the space too. And it allows for that more efficiency. Again, this is just, if you are a designer in the architectural world, might as well include a sheet that has this with your spaces already pre-created to help down the road, right? So downstream effect to make everyone's life easier. Versus what some people have to do is they'll have to go into the PDF themselves and then create a space, which we all know takes time. So if we want to help other people out versus having to manually create the space click by click, you just include it, because if you're designing and you have rooms in Revit from an architectural perspective, you can quickly go through and create spaces for other people, right? So again, just helping that downstream effect.
Yeah, and that'd be great for punch listing or any other things where you're going to give one team, like, here you go, here's lounge 111, that's your room. It's already broken out, super easy to read, super concise. I mean, it's a great tool, and I think that totally deserves a spot on the hidden tricks list.
Yeah, it's all about helping other people, right?
Yeah,
We're all
how
one team.
How can we make life easier?
Yeah, like we're all trying to build some type of project. I'm not going to say a building because it varies from civil perspective too. we're trying to work on a project collectively instead of like pulling each other away. Let's help each other out. So with that, the other one that I was going to go through and talk about just slipped my mind because I totally was going to. Oh, that's what I was going to do. Split and synchronize pages. So you do have the option to split screen. So this is something that may not be utilized from everybody. But if you wanted to, down here in the bottom, you have split screen. Also in view, you have the ability to split screen. But the main one for this one is the synchronize pages. So this is defaulted to synchronize, but you have under view as well synchronize page or the entire document. What this allows you to do is split screens. You can't unsynchronize individually, so it's all pages are synchronized, just so you're aware. So if you had like a bunch of these split, it's going to synchronize in that manner. So as you're scrolling in and out, they're going to synchronize in unison to where you're scrolling in and out. So this is one way to, I would say, visually compare documents, right? You have your old revision and a new revision. You have that ability to go through and compare.
Isn't circulation spelled wrong there? Maybe is that an English spelling? Because I see the meter.
I see the
Interesting.
meter.
I think
yeah, it's the Imperial
tool is one of those things that, like, yeah, it was cool when you first learned Revu, and then nobody used it since.
I know.
But you remember, it's like, man, that actually is pretty darn handy, being able to go and look at different pages of the same PDF, or comparing before and after, or whatever else. It is a great tool.
Ooh, one more. So the other one would be the ability to export and import markups. Highly underutilized tool that is built into Revu. So if you did get a new set, you can export or import your markups, and they do not need to be exported by their file type. So basically, there is a file type that I forget what the extension comes out to be, but it's different. It's a different extension, but you can import by that extension or import from an old PDF. Yes, it does do it by placement. So if you needed to, you could wide select if things moved, because we all know they do. You can wide select except for the flattened one here. And then you can group move them after. So you do have that option to go through and move these around if you ever needed to after the fact. You can also play Tetris, which I don't like to do, but you do have that option to like move them down if you needed to as well. So
do you know how to turn off the default highlight properties so that it won't snap automatically to your content anymore?
I just held control. I talked about that earlier, but in terms of not automatically doing the vector and raster, I do not know. It's probably maybe somewhere in preferences.
Turn it off forever.
Copy. Well, I don't want
preferences tablet. What? Preferences.
Where?
Yeah, there's no tablet thing. You're making me lose my mind here.
I guess I could just do highlight.
Yeah. Enable text highlighting. Just turn it on.
Copy text. That's what this is. Oh, this one right here. Enable text highlighting under tablet under window. Where is it?
Right below. Enable text highlighting.
Oh, there it is. But wouldn't you kind of want text if it was vector?
Yeah, I like that function. Well, Danny likes that one.
Again, the quick select is shift, control, and then go back if you want to do between or not between. But again, highlight copies text down below, and I just found that one out that you can disable that. So preferences under the general, where was it? Document?
It was under window.
Just go to highlight.
Yeah, or highlight.
Yeah, copy text.
This is a touchy subject, right? Because someone has, obviously, everybody's tried to highlight one thing, and then the whole page gets bright yellow, and then you get blinded. Revu sort of struggles sometimes when you've got vertical text and diagonal text and upside down text and whatever else. So this is one of those things where you're able to fight back against that, I suppose.
Yeah, see, it just did that here. So I guess it's when you see a longer area, it starts
Yep.
to highlight everything versus
Yep.
here, it's just this one. It's probably like the zone of the window. Like when it sees a window, it's like, oh, there's a lot of text everywhere. Can I just highlight it all?
Yep. And that's also on Liz's blog. So if you're listening and you haven't seen Liz Larson's blog, check it out. HTTP lizlarson.me. And she's got all sorts of tips and tricks and wonderfully handcrafted artisan gifts. I'm going to say artisan gifts just for you, Liz. And that brings us to our time today. Thank you, everybody, for your time, attention, participation, suggestions. It was pretty fun, and we'll do it again next week. So take care out there, and we will see you soon.
See you all next week.